Welcome to Cues and Views, first on the web for collecting English billiard cues.
Hello, here we are in the Winter Gardens in Sheffield. Just behind me there's the Crucible Theatre where today and tomorrow the World Championship final will be taking place. Ronnie O'Sullivan is currently on 3 World Championship wins, 3 finals, 3 wins. Who I want to speak to you about is a player who some years ago, 40 plus years ago, carved out a career with a very similar pattern in some ways, and this would be John Spencer. John Spencer, who won the World Championship 3 times, the third of which was in 1977, the very first winner at the very impressive theatre that we have behind us now. John Spencer won 1969, 1971 and 1977, the most famous win being, as I've said before, at the Crucible Theatre, just behind me here in Sheffield. John Spencer, very stylish player, famous for a very good cue action for the time, very technically capable of major screwback shots and very flamboyant, extravagant uses of spin, particularly when frames were won, not in the style necessarily of Jimmy White, but certainly an entertaining player to watch and very, very stylish. I'll speak more about John Spencer in a moment.
Here we have some John Spencer cues that I've managed to accumulate over the years. The first one is a Dufferin Pro replica John Spencer cue. Here you see the photograph of John Spencer embedded into the facing splice of the cue, a replica signature on the badge and the words Dufferin Pro and replica as well on the badge. This is a single piece cue with a black ferrule made out of the cue itself. The shaft is made from maple, the butt's rosewood. Very nice cue, quite strong, quite a playable cue to use even today. John Spencer was associated with BCE, Adam and Dufferin throughout a period of years, probably the 70s to the early 80s. One of the first Adam cues that I got, this is the first one that I got, has a bird's eye maple lower, or I suppose you would say the second half, the top of the second half of the cue, the lower half of the cue. He's fully made out of bird's eye maple. Above the joint is maple. The rest of the cue is, as you can see, very decorative with the famous Adam lion on the badge. This is a very nice high specification cue with a wooden joint. The next cue is a BCE, again a replica cue, patterned after John Spencer's own cue, however machine spliced. Very nice, very interesting badge with a unique logo that was unique to the BCE range that Adam commissioned, I guess, or were in partnership with BCE. Next, and the most famous of all, is the JS12, the Adam cue that is exactly like the one used by John Spencer himself, again in the latter part of his career. This again has a wooden joint. Most of these cues have John Spencer written on them. Some of them have the full facsimile signature. These are quite a nice selection of cues that I've managed to put together. There is John Spencer, a man who, without realising it, got me interested in snooker, and perhaps in an indirect way interested in snooker cues. John Spencer was famous for having a cue that he'd used at his local institute, practising snooker once or twice a week, playing league matches. A cue held together with a 6-inch nail, a cue that appeared to have been chewed by a very, very hungry dog. John Spencer won 2 of his 3 World Championships with this cue. Mentioned in his book Spencer on Snooker, which I got from the library when I was quite a young fella. Read that book, enjoyed the style of the book, enjoyed the fact that he was a northern person like myself, north of England that is, and I enjoyed the opportunity to find out a little bit more about the game, how it's played and so on from his book.
which was co-written by Clive Everton, more recently famous as a snooker commentator and as the writer stroke editor of Snooker Scene magazine. Now John Spencer, as we've said already, won 3 World Championships, and John Spencer was something of a first snooker hero of mine. I liked his style, I liked the fact that he had the bravery to move over to a 2-piece centre jointed cue, and he was actually the first person to win the World Snooker Championship with the 2-piece centre jointed cue. John Spencer.
This is another interesting piece of collectible memorabilia associated both with Adam cues and John Spencer. As you can see, it's the photograph of John Spencer on the cover, and John Spencer endorsed Adam cues before any of the other professionals, as far as I'm aware, because he actually used one in winning some major tournaments. I'll just show you the range of John Spencer cues that are from Adam that are inside this catalogue, being a bit stubborn as it is. Here is the full range of John Spencer cues made by Adam, some of them made under licence from BCE. I haven't got all this wide range of cues, some of them are quite straightforward and basic, but they go right up to the quite famous JS12, which is a hand splice cue, almost a facsimile of the one John Spencer used right up until the end of his playing career. As you know, one of my great idols in the game, and who got me interested in the game unknowingly to him, was John Spencer. Now I know you've got one or two interesting memories because you've actually, I mean, I've met John Spencer once, I think you've met him on many occasions, or certainly more than once. Have you got an interesting story that you might like to share about my hero, Mr. John Spencer?
Yeah. I mean, a lovely, lovely man. I knew him very well. I met him early on, you know, in my professional career in the sort of early mid-90s, because he was doing a lot of commentary then. He'd long retired as a player, but did a lot of commentary for the BBC and commentated on 1 or 2 of my matches as well, and gave me some advice, which was wonderful. And you know, I always liked to meet John and have a chat with him, because he knew I collected things at the time, and we had some various chats about different players, and I spoke to him a bit about people like Joe Davis and players like that. Had a chance to meet him. You know, and these things, you know, John sadly passed away a few years ago, so you know, these little reminiscences, it's good to ask these people these questions while you have the chance. And yes, I mean, I met John. The funniest thing that happened with me and John, I was in the Heritage Room at the time, when we had the Heritage Room at the World Championships in Sheffield, and I was helping Roger Lee out a little bit behind his stall and giving advice to people on books and some of the photographs and ephemera that was lost around the Heritage Room. And Ted Lowe walked in, and I love Ted Lowe. I love to speak to Ted about Joe Davis and his days in the 30s when he was managing director until the late 50s when it closed, and had a good chat with Ted, as of course Roger Lee did. The 3 of us were together, and then in walked John Spencer. I saw him from, I don't know, 10-15 yards away walking towards us, and he's got a big smile on his face as he came from the door, and our eyes met. No, I'm sick of hearing your voice because I was commentating at the time myself, as I have been for 10-12 years now, the BBC Wales in the Welsh Room, and obviously John was making reference to that as a commentator, as a fellow commentator. A lovely guy, really, John, you know, sadly missed for everyone. Couldn't meet a nicely pictured guy, and a great player, and famed of course for his incredible screwbacks and cue power.
Wonderful to watch him.
Oh yeah.
Even I didn't see him in his absolute heyday, because a lot of it's not available to see and whatever. My John Spencer story is very simple, and it goes like this. I was up in the foyer at the Crucible, and I heard a little buzz go around, and somebody's kneeling behind me. I turned round, and there he is in a suit, very, very smart. Obviously it's a showpiece event, the World Championship. He was the first person doing it at the Crucible in Sheffield, as you know, in 1977. So in a way it's a nice memory for him, I guess, and he made an effort. He was right there behind me. I turned around. Foolishly I said to him, "You're John Spencer." he straight away replied, with a big, that trademark John Spencer smile, "Well, I hope so, I've been sleeping with his wife."
Very good. I've got another one for you. I mean, a couple of the guys in Leeds who ran a club that's no longer there anymore, the Empire. The guy that ran that, guy called Viv Rosser, good amateur player and everything, who loves the game, he's been involved in it since the 70s really. He met John Spencer at Pontins. Now, Viv Rosser, big practical joker. He asked for John Spencer's autograph, lauding him up, said, "John, it's an honour to meet you. I said, big fan of yours, 3 times world champion. Always wanted your autograph. Would you please oblige me?" Gave him a pencil. It wasn't lead, it was rubber. John was not impressed, as you could imagine. Oh dear, Viv
But you
Rosser.
see, John Spencer himself was the king of practical jokers himself, so I suppose every now and again someone's going to turn the tail.
Spent a lot of time in Leeds with a guy that's sadly no longer with us again, Big Mike Thomas. Alex Higgins used to stay at his house, gamble, play poker, go on drinking binges. John Virgo did. They all knew Big Mike Thomas from Leeds. John Spencer used to go with Alex, poker tournaments and just having a great time. And those days, were wonderful in snooker. And always had those sort of days in the 80s and that, but snooker's just got so serious now, so much money involved in the game, the players take it so seriously, their diets and their fitness and their practice regimes, that those fun days have largely disappeared from the game now, and it's a shame, because those great stories that we've just spoken about, you don't really hear them anymore.
But that was a heyday for me. Dominic, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
I enjoyed it.